أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الحديث حديث محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أعاذني الله وإياكم منها. The meaning of Islam is what is known as Islam, submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, submission to Allah azza wa jalla with Tawheed, making Allah the only deity that you worship, making Allah the only one that you love in the way that He should be loved, feared in the way that He should be feared, submitting to Allah azza wa jalla's commands through His messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to the extent that these words and these commands of Allah azza wa jalla, they intermingle with your soul, that you have full trust that whatever is from Allah azza wa jalla is full of wisdom, is full of justice, is full of mercy, is full of guidance. That is the meaning of al-Islam, al-Istislamu lillahi bi Tawheed, to submit to Allah azza wa jalla with the Tawheed and the following of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So your thoughts, your actions, your words, everything is guided by Allah azza wa jalla. Why? Because you trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You love Allah azza wa jalla. You know that there is nothing that comes from Him except that it is the truth, the absolute truth, full of justice, full of guidance. And the believer is happily to be controlled in that manner. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu is narrated in a hadith collected by Abi Dawood that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was once giving khutbah. And as he was giving khutbah, he saw some people standing. So he said, Ijlisu. He said to them, sit. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu had not even entered the masjid. He was just by the door. So he sat down immediately as he heard the words of the Prophet ﷺ saying, sit. He knew that's not a place that you should sit. You shouldn't sit in the door when people are coming in and out. However, he couldn't control himself. His soul was overtaken by the command of the Prophet ﷺ. Do you see how they were? That's how they were with the commands of Allah Azza wa Jal and the words of the Prophet ﷺ. There was no, shall I do it? Shall I not do it? Is it going to be good for me? Will I lose something? Will it be harmful? Will it be beneficial? No. It came from Allah Azza wa Jal. It came from the Prophet ﷺ. They had full, absolute trust in what the Prophet ﷺ said. So he sat down, and then the Prophet ﷺ asked him to get up and to move closer to the Jama'ah. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِي مَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا مِّمَّا قَضَيْتَ وَيُسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Allah Azza wa Jal here is describing the completeness of Iman that people have. That know by your Lord they will never ever go against what you say. They will take you as the judge whenever they have dispute, as the reference to whom they should return to. And then once you have made the judgment of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they will never find any difficulty in their heart from accepting your judgment, even if it goes against them. This is how Allah Azza wa Jal describes the believers in the Quran. That as soon as the judgment, as soon as the command of Allah Azza wa Jal and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes to them, then this is what they implement ala tul, straight away. And in order to understand this fully, we need to go back to the lives of the companions radiallahu anhum. We need to look into their lives and to see how did they interact with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How were they around him in terms of obeying him, loving him, and accepting his guidance? Because today we live in a time where everything is watered down. Everything has changed. It's very difficult now to find somebody holding on to the religion as it's supposed to be held on to. In fact, if you hold on to the religion the way you're supposed to today, people laugh at you. They will say you're extreme. They say you don't understand other waqi'. They say you don't understand the reality of the affairs. You're behaving in a manner which they behaved 1,000 years ago. No. Go back and look at the lives of the Salaf radiallahu anhum, and you will change the way you think about Islam. From that which people have strayed away, from the most important commands that Allah Azza wa Jal has sent down to His creation. And the most dangerous of commands to disobey is the command to worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone. to have the Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal and to avoid the shirk, to ensure that you worship Allah with complete love, complete submission, that there is none that you love in comparison to Allah Azza wa Jal, that there is none that you honor in comparison to Allah Azza wa Jal, that there is none that you fear in comparison to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. We sent to every nation a messenger commanding them that they worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone and they stay away from that those are worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was the crux of the message of every messenger to every nation, as Allah clearly mentions in the Quran. But sadly today, we have people that when they read such verses like إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ, Allah Azza wa Jal will not forgive that shirk is made with Allah Azza wa Jal, but He forgives other than that to whomsoever He wishes. They read these verses and however they say, well, it's a bit difficult. We live in the UK, we live in Europe. People are celebrating Christmas now. It's the time of Christmas. How am I going to avoid that at work? How am I going to avoid that at university? Okay, I won't celebrate it fully. I'll just engage with it a little bit. I just say to them, have a nice Christmas, have a good time and be safe, etc. I won't give them presents, but I'll accept the present that they give. All of this is shirk, and all of this is leading you away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be upon, and it won't be forgiven by Allah Azza wa Jal. The Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us in the hadith, لَتَتَّبِعَنَّ سَنَنَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ حَذْوَ الْقُدَّةِ بِالْقُدَّةِ حَتَّى لَوْ دَخَلَ جُحْرَ ضَبٍّ لَدَخَلْتُمُوهُ قَالُوا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ الْيَهُودُ وَالنَّصَارَى قَالَ فَمَنْ. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, you are going to follow in the footsteps of those that came before you. To the extent that you like, the Prophet ﷺ said, to the extent of the feathers on an arrow. You know, when you fire the arrow, there's feathers on it. They are equal in symmetry. He said, like that, you will follow them, to the extent that if they entered one of them into a lizard hole, you will also enter. They said, Ya Rasulullah, do you mean the Yehud and the Nasara, the Jews and the Christian? He said, of course, the Jews and the Christian. And this is what you're finding people doing today. They're following the ways of the Jews and the Christians. They're following their attitudes, the thoughts, and even worse, the celebrations, like Christmas, for example. And this is something which is a disaster. It's something which we have to avoid. It's something that we have to warn our families and our loved ones from doing so. Yes, many of our families are doing it. It's very difficult for us to tell them because they get upset with us. But this is a huge shirk. It's something which is very devastating to one's iman. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, describing it in the Quran, وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ الرَّحْمَنُ وَلَدًا لَقَدْ جِئْتُمْ شَيْئًا إِدًّا. They say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken a son. Listen to the emotions in this verse. They say that Allah Azza wa Jalla has taken a son. Verily they have come with something which is extremely disgusting. تَكَادُ السَّمَاوَاتُ يَتَفَطَّرْنَ مِنْهُ. It's as though the heavens, the skies are about to rip open from this word that they have said. It's as though the earth is about to split asunder. It's as though the mountains are about to crumble because they say that Allah has taken a son. Think about that. Everything in creation cannot bear to even imagine that people dare to say that Allah has taken a son. But for us, no problem. We'll go to the party. We'll send them a Christmas card. We'll reply to whatever they're saying. We'll accept their gifts. No, it's not allowed. In terms of shirk, you cannot participate in any form of shirk, whether it's Diwali, whether it's Christmas. You have your own system of life that you are following. So these tremendous feelings, you have to feel them also as believers. It goes against the most fundamental of teachings. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say that Allah is uniquely one. Allah is Samad. Allah is Samad. Everything in creation needs Allah Azza wa Jal, but He needs none. Lam yalid, He was not born, وَلَمْ يُولَدْ, and He doesn't give birth. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ, and nor is there anything similar to Him. How can we go against this fundamental teaching, which is the cornerstone of our Islam, by celebrating Christmas or other such celebrations? Allah Azza wa Jal says about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin, fahuwa minhum. Man tashabbaha biqawmin, fahuwa minhum." Whoever takes on the specific characteristics of a people, then he becomes like them. So if you take on the specific ways, the behavior, or the specific practices, religious practices of non-Muslims, then you are like them. You are exactly like them, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in his hadith. So it's imperative that the believer, he doesn't be like that. The Prophet ﷺ said elsewhere, خَالِفَ الْيُهُودُ وَالنَّصَارَى. خَالِفُ الْيُهُودُ وَالنَّصَارَى. In so many hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, differ from the Jews and the Christians. Be completely different from them as much as you can. فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يُصَلُّونَ فِي نِعَالِهِمْ. For example, they do not pray in their slippers. You pray in your slippers and sandals whenever it's clean and you are able to do so. So the Prophet ﷺ in many instances wanted his companions and the Muslims to differ from the Yahud and the Nasara. You know why? If you are following something which is pure, if you are following something which is perfect, it's not from arrogance that you then look down upon everything else besides that. If you know that what you have is perfect and from the truth of your Lord, it's not from arrogance to look down upon everything besides that. It's not from arrogance to refuse to want to be a part of anything besides that. Rather, it's from your love of what you have been given by Allah Azza wa Jal that you appreciate the perfectness and the greatness of what Allah Azza wa Jal has given you, and you will not want to follow other than that besides what Allah Azza wa Jal has given you. So that's how the believer is supposed to be. He's supposed to be different to the kuffar in that which is specific to them. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam, rasulillah. Of course, you're thinking as I'm giving this khutbah, but we interact with the kuffar. We live in a non-Muslim country. That's absolutely fine. Islam doesn't prevent you from doing that whatsoever. When you go to work, when you go to university, show the kuffar the compassion that you have as a Muslim, the care that you have for them, the goodness that you want towards them. Show them that you have good work ethics. Show them that you have strength of mind, strength of character, strength of body. Show them all of this so this can be a gateway for you to open up the doors of da'wah to them. Show them that you are the best of creation in everything that you do. So when you interact with them, they only feel good when they're around you. They'll feel happy when they're around you. They'll feel positive when they're around you because that's who you are as a person. And then it opens up doors of da'wah to you. However, if it comes to a choice of you having to choose between the obedience of Allah Azza wa Jal and the obedience to the creation, then of course you choose the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the hadith, the Prophet said in Tirmidhi, من التمس رضا الله بسخط الناس رضي الله عنه وأرضى عنه الناس. Whoever chooses the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal, though the people are going to be displeased with him, when it comes to that choice, then Allah Azza wa Jal is going to be pleased with him and he will cause the people to be pleased with him. وَمَنْ التمس رضا الناس بسخط الله سخط الله عليه وأسخط عليه الناس. And whoever chooses the displeasure of Allah Azza wa Jal for the pleasure of the people, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be displeased with him and he will cause eventually the people to be displeased with him. So remember that you can interact with people. It's not a problem. Islam doesn't prevent us from doing that. However, you have to stay within the parameters of what Allah Azza wa Jal has allowed for you. And one of the major problems which causes us from not interacting with people confidently or not being able to say no to people is that we haven't studied our religion enough. If you studied your religion enough, if you had enough knowledge, it's very easy for you to repel the doubts that people come to you with. It's very easy for you to have a discussion of Tawheed and why we don't celebrate Christmas, because you have the knowledge with you. And when you have the knowledge, then Allah Azza wa Jal, He guides your thoughts, He guides your behavior, because you're acting upon that knowledge. As the Prophet ﷺ said in that hadith, حتى أحبه فإذا أحببته كنت سمعه الذي يسمع به وبصره الذي يبصر به ويده التي يبتش بها ورجله الذي يمشي بها. That when this person, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the long hadith, that this person implements everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to implement, then Allah Azza wa Jal becomes for that person the hearing by which he hears, the sight by which he sees, the hand by which he stretches out, the legs by which he walks. Meaning Allah Azza wa Jal guides you in all of those limbs, guides you in all of your situations. So you will be at work and you will never fall, inshallah, into this traps of misguidance. You will be able to stand your ground with knowledge. You will be able to discuss with confidence and with intellectual proofs from the Quran and the Sunnah and from wisdom. This is how we want to be. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He guides us always to stay away from this major act of shirk in its variety of forms, especially in the forms that we find in this country from the Christmas and the Diwali. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to keep us firm on Iman. Ameen. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين ودمر أعداءك أعداء الدين اللهم احكم دماء المسلمين في بلاد الشام وفي أفريقيا وفي السودان وفي كل الأرض اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم يا مصرف القلوب صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك وقوموا إلى صلاتكم يرحمكم